Albert Einstein's rumoured to have said, "If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life believing that it's stupid." Whether or not Einstein actually said that doesn't matter. The premise that you measure the abilities of everyone by the same yardstick is a contentious one. My name's David Koeman. I'm an executive and leadership coach and consultant. I work with business leaders just like you to understand the relationship between your choices, your behaviours, and ultimately your success. One of the things leaders I work with consistently find challenging is getting their individual team members to do things they're not particularly good at, fitting a square peg into a round hole, so to speak. In most organisations, there's some form of performance appraisal process that in the majority of cases will look at what the person has succeeded at, and if the degree of success was great enough, would result in some form of extrinsic reward. Now, typically, these successes were made possible by leveraging the person's strengths, what they're good at. Then the attention will turn to something that they didn't do so well, the downsides. Sometimes this is managed in such a way as to call these areas development needs, growth opportunities, and in some cases they call them weaknesses. What happens next is that the person will typically have a development plan that focuses almost exclusively on what they didn't do so well, judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree, so to speak. Think of employee development or personal development like an investment. Do you invest in something that struggles to gain a return, or do you invest in something that'll help you grow? If you're lucky enough, you may work for an organisation that considers both ends of that spectrum. Research company Gallup has studied employee engagement for the better part of 20 years, and whilst the statistics fluctuate certainly by location, they're fairly consistent over time. What does their research tell us? Well, globally, 15% of employees are engaged at work and 25% are actively disengaged. In Australia, that number stands at 24% of employees are engaged and approximately 15% disengaged. So what do we mean by that? Well, someone who's engaged by their work is actively involved, motivated and pursuing success. They love what they do. Someone that's not engaged turns up for a paycheck and leaves without the thought for work the moment they walk out the door. They could be described as apathetic. Someone actively disengaged is a detractor. They may be disruptive and they may be a roadblock in achieving anything for the team or the greater company. They're often described as negative. What that means is that 15% of workers globally love what they do and they enjoy what they do. 60% of the population are apathetic and 25% of the population are negative about their role. According to the 2017 State of the Global Workforce Report, this represents a significant loss of productivity ranging in the trillions. As this is a missed opportunity, it's largely difficult to quantify. So what's employee engagement got to do with focusing on someone's strengths? Well, statistics developed from employee engagement studies from Gallup identified that managers and leaders that focus on an employee's strengths were able to engage people at a rate of 61% and reduced actively disengaged employees to a rate of 1%. Compare this to an organisation that simply ignores their staff. The same study showed that 40% of the workforce will become actively disengaged and only 2% engaged. I initially talked about how most performance appraisal processes look at development needs or weaknesses. There is statistically valid evidence that this approach over time does provide a degree of benefit. It's been shown that even a management approach which focuses on weaknesses and maintains a regular follow-up will improve engagement with employees up to 40%. What is also true about this approach, however, is that it also significantly increases the percentage of people that are actively disengaged. So does that mean I should just ignore the weaknesses? Well, let's look at weaknesses like this. Weaknesses are a shortage or a misapplication of talent, skills, or knowledge. When you consider a weakness like this, you can't ignore it, nor should you. A more appropriate use of your time would be to manage your weaknesses in the context of your strength. When you take this approach, you can focus on your strengths and manage your weaknesses. What that means is that you can work out how a combination of strength themes where you demonstrate a greater degree of ability can be used to achieve a similar outcome to the theme that you show less capability at. An alternative would be to recognize what you aren't as proficient at and find people either within your team or outsource it that can meet the gaps that you have. So why would this matter to a business leader? Well, engaged employees are happy employees that are more likely to promote the company as a preferred employer, which in turn is more likely to attract and retain talent. They have reduced staff turnover, 15% lower staff turnover than peers that received no strength treatment, and subsequently avoid additional costs in hiring and training. Teams whose managers had some intervention in focusing on strengths had a healthy boost in productivity and profitability. Now, I'm not suggesting that working only to strengths is going to achieve ultimate business success. What I am suggesting is that having people work to their strengths will engage your staff and create greater room for success. There are a number of behaviours that are required to be successful, and that is something we can look at separately. I want you to have a takeaway from investing your time and watching this last few minutes. 1. Understand the talents and strengths of your team. 2. Grow those strengths through development, coaching, and mentoring. Nurture them. The more a person gets to use their strengths, the better they'll be able to adapt to challenges and manage those themes that they aren't as strong with. 3. Have their team leverage their strengths every day in the pursuit of team goals and in support of each other. People feel good about being effective and productive and being able to support others. And 4, take the time to engage with your staff every day. The results would be a better engaged workforce, delivering improved productivity and a better outcome for the company as a whole. Working to your strengths and managing your weaknesses is one of the most foundational stepping stones to consistently operating at your best, both as an individual and as a team. Success is a series of habits and behaviours that you do every day. Leveraging your strengths is one of those behaviours. If you want to understand more about strength themes, how to assess yourself or your team and what your strengths may be, and the habits of using them every day, contact me via direct message. I want to thank you for investing a few minutes of your day to understand a really important way to show up differently with your people. Until we speak, I wish you continued success and have an outstanding day.